the all-powerful person in India is, is a prime minister. But actually, the all-powerful person in India, because no law no bill can be formed a law until the president signs it. So you have the president of India, who is the constitutional head. He's the first citizen of our entire country. Okay, that means it's so important. Okay, now the executive power has also been vested in the president. That means when it comes to a bill becoming a law, or even addressing the parliament session, so all this, okay, is being vested in the hands of the president of India. Now let's understand one thing: the president does not rule India. We all know that it is the prime minister who actually has more decision making powers in India. Okay, so he is the head, or the ceremonial head, or the nominal head of the state. And the executive power is exercised by the president on the advice of the council of ministers. That is, the prime minister and the council of ministers will advise the president, and the president then will take a stance on what he or she has to do. Okay, so now let's go on to our next slide. If a person wants to become the president of India, okay, you and me, what are the qualifications required? The first, very important, by default, please write this: the person must be a citizen of India, should have had completed the minimum age of 35 years. Okay, if you're looking 35 years, it is as good as standing, in the for elections in the Rajya Sabha. Okay, this is your minimum age qualification. Now, the person must not hold any office of profit under the government, state government, or local bodies. Okay, so you cannot be having a company, which is getting contracts by the government. You have to let go of all this. Maybe your family can run it, but you have
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, Ashta?
Ma'am, we are not seeing the slide of that president.
You all are not able to see it?
No, ma'am.
Okay. 1 minute. I'm stopping the screen share and I am resuming the share. Okay, please let me know. Now, can you see it, Ashta?
Yes, ma'am. Now
better? Okay.
Yes,
if you're not able to see it, let me know. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Fine. So, okay. Have you seen the previous slide? Did you have this problem from the previous slide?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So from this slide. Okay. So let's begin. Now, firstly, the person must be a citizen of India. First qualification. Second qualification, should have completed the minimum age of 35. Third, you cannot have any office of profit under the state government, or under the local government. You have to give it up or detach yourself from it. Okay. Now, the person must be qualified for election as a member of the House of the People. Okay, so that means you should be as the qualifications which is given initially, we did it in the union legislature, right, wherein the person is of a sound mind, the person is not an insolvent, that is not having a lot of debts within. Okay, so all these qualifications stand firm. Okay, and also the person must not be a convicted criminal. That's important. Okay, and the person should not be a member of either house of the union legislature. That is, you can't be a member of the Lok Sabha, neither you can be a member of the Rajya Sabha. Okay, fine. Only if you have all these, you can stand for the post of the President of India. Okay, now who elects the President of India? How suddenly a person can stand up and become the President of India? Okay, firstly, the names are suggested by the ruling party as well as by the opposition party. There are names suggested. Now, who votes or elects the President of India? The President of India is elected by the Electoral College. Okay, now who forms a part of this Electoral College? The Electoral College consists of the members of Parliament, elected. Okay, the word electoral means elected. Okay, so only the elected members of the Parliament, that is both the houses, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, and the elected members of the Vidhan Sabha of each state, or even the elected members of the union territories. Okay, they are the ones who form the Electoral College. So altogether, their votes are calculated. So you can imagine it is not only the Parliament. It is not only the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha that will elect people, but here you have the entire, country indirectly voting for the President of India. Now, remember one thing, all these people have to be only elected. Okay, they are not the ones who are nominated or selected. So you remember in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, we have nominated members. Those nominated members are not going to vote, or they do not form a part of the electoral college. Okay, I hope you all have understood this. Yes? Okay. Now we go forward of why suddenly we have to have indirect elections. Why don't we entire country goes to vote when we are voting? You know how we vote for the prime minister, the entire country, common man. Once you turn 18, you get to vote. Why this does not happen with the president? It is just elected members, indirect elections that happens. Okay, firstly, in case the entire country would go into elections, okay, for the president of India, indirectly it would be a rival. You know, who is more popular? The prime minister is more popular or the president is more popular? So this would lead to a lot of a difficult situation in case they are rivals. So in order to let go of rivalry or to avoid such a thing, the first reason is the president is never elected directly. Fine, the president is elected indirectly in order to stop him from becoming a rival or a center of the power, from the prime minister or the council of ministers. Okay, the next second reason, if imagine, okay, usually till today it is a person who is, the ruling party will nominate a name, will suggest a name. Now in case this person was to be voted by the by the country, and it can be that only the ruling party will dominate, this one particular party say, okay, one person from my party, he will resign and he will stand for elections. Now what will happen is that will cause a lot of that means indirectly that party is getting a lot of power. Imagine the president is from in was a part of that party, the prime minister is a part of that party, so that ruling party will get unnecessary power. So to avoid that, okay, it's better to have indirect elections, so that when you're having people of the states voting, maybe in the state government it's not the central ruling party that is in majority. So in that case, they will vote for someone who is neutral. So to avoid that, they ensure that the president should be voted indirectly. Okay, so that the ruling party or one party will not dominate the entire country and it's safe. Fine. Now the third reason is because the person has to be a true representative of the nation. If you are if you are choosing someone who has been part of politics or part of part of a small party initially, they will be only maybe a politician. But when you are voting for someone, when a person is nominated to be the president, okay, to stand for elections, then in that case the person, all the other states are looking at what the person is apart from even the political career. Like for example, okay, our late president Mr. Abdul Kalam. We all know, okay, that he was such a genius, a good scientist who really worked for our country. So in that case, you're looking at all aspects of the person. So that is why they decided that we would have indirect elections. Okay. So firstly, ensuring he's not a rival to the prime minister. Secondly, you are also ensuring that there's no one party trying to rule the entire country. Okay. And third thing, you're ensuring that this person will be a true representative of the people of India. Okay, who represents diversity. Okay, who has who has progressed in many spheres of life. Fine. Now, when the president of India, okay, once the the electoral college votes and a person comes into into majority and the person wins the elections, then that person, okay, is asked to say the oath of office, which is administered by the Chief Justice of India. And the oath is very clear to work for the welfare of the people of India. Okay, all the promises that the person takes is just to work for the welfare of the people of India. Fine. Now, in case, now this is very important. Okay, the procedure of impeachment. That means in case the person, the president, is not working up to the mark. Maybe the president is caught, unfortunately, into some of the other scams, into some money laundering scams. Then in that case, having such a person as a president of India will tarnish the image of a country. So in that case, you want to remove the president. Now, this removal process is called impeachment. Okay. Now, how does a president of India be impeached? Okay. So far, it's never happened in India, but how does impeachment begin? Now, it usually begins, okay, in any one of the house. So you have 1/4 of the total members. They will have to give in writing. Okay. A resolution will have to be passed saying that we would like to introduce the impeachment. Okay. Introduce the process of impeachment. Now, once that is submitted, okay, say it is begun in the Lok Sabha, imagine, okay, it can start in either houses. Now, it begins in the Lok Sabha. Now, in the Lok Sabha, once they submit it, okay, once a written resolution is submitted, the speaker accepts it, then the speaker will ask the entire house, okay, to vote whether we go forward for the impeachment or not. Now, 2/3 of the majority of that house have to agree that yes, we want to go forward for the impeachment. But you have to also justify, okay, those few people you remember, that 1/4 of the total number, they have to give their reasons of why also the impeachment is beginning. Why? Okay, just because you don't like the president doesn't mean you start the impeachment process. There has to be something concrete. After the resolution is passed, then the next house, say it's began in the Lok Sabha, now the president will be called in the Rajya Sabha. In the Rajya Sabha, the president, okay, they will set up a committee. They will investigate, okay, the entire charges put against the president of India. And after that happens, okay, if the charge is proved right, then the entire house goes into the Rajya Sabha will go into voting. And if 2/3 of the majority votes in favor of the impeachment, then the president is removed from his post. And this is how the president of India will get impeached. Okay, the word is impeached. Remember, it's not removal. When you write your civic terms, please ensure that you are sticking to the terms. Okay, don't write removal or resignation is a different tenure. Okay, a different term. Now we come up to the next thing for the tenure. How long is a president in power? We all know. Okay, like the government of India, the president is in power for 5 years. Fine. However, sometimes the post of the president of India may remain vacant if the president resigns. Okay, maybe the president is sick. He cannot, or he or she cannot continue. Okay, maybe he's got a really deadly sickness like maybe cancer or Parkinson's and feel that he wants to resign. Then he resigns by submitting his resignation to the vice president of India, or maybe due to the death of the president, or maybe the president is removed through the process of impeachment, which we did earlier. Okay, then in that case, if just it's an emergency, if the president is removed, immediately the vice president will become the acting president of India. Okay, the vice president will take up the post of being the president of India. But let's understand, after a time, after a few days, immediately the electoral college is called and the new president is elected. Fine. So that means a vice president will not remain the president forever. It's nothing like that. It's just for the time being, he's going to act like the president of India. And within 6 months, they should ensure that the electoral college will come together. They will call for elections and they will elect the new president of India. Fine. Now we go on to the next part where we are talking about the powers and functions of the president. This is an all favorite question when it comes to the board segments. Okay, they will always ask you what are the powers and functions of the president. So you have your administrative powers, you have your legislative powers, you have your judicial powers, military powers, diplomatic powers, emergency powers, and financial powers. So we will deal with all of these powers. Okay, fine, one by one. It's very simple. Now, when you hear the word executive, executive means actually doing. So remember, whenever you hear executive, the first thing is he is the head. The prime minister, the president is the head of all union administration. Remember this first point, okay? He is the head of all the union administration. Now, what else does the president do? He appoints people. Now, who does he appoint? He appoints the prime minister and his council, okay? He appoints the chief justice of India, the judges of the Supreme Court, the judges of the High Court, the governors, the government chairpersons or members of the Union Public Service Commission, also known as a UPSC, okay, the chairperson of the Planning Commission. So all these are appointed by the President of India. Now let's understand, okay, when it comes to the Chief Justice, when it comes to the chairperson of Union, Union Public Service Commission, it's not that, whoever he wishes he appoints. He has to take the aid and advice of the Prime Minister once the Prime Minister is appointed and his council. But let's understand it's the aid and advice, okay? Now, he also controls the state governments. Now, you by appointing the governors, we all know, okay? So the governors are indirectly, they communicate with the president of what is happening in the state, fine? And apart from that, also during emergency, which we will do in the emergency powers, during emergency, he takes complete control, okay, of the states. And finally, the union territories and the border areas, they come directly under president's rule, okay? So these union territories and border areas are, the ones who are there appointed to rule that place are responsible to the president for how that place is being administered or ruled, fine? So remember, when you talk about executive powers, we're saying what the president is actually doing, okay? The executive powers. Now, next we go on to our legislative powers. Legislative, the word legislature means lawmaking. When you hear the word lawmaking, think about the parliament, okay? Don't get confused. So when we're talking about the legislative power, what does the president actually do? The first one, the president addresses the session of the parliament. The first time when they all, after elections, they all come together, or in every year, okay, every year, the first time that the parliament meets, or for the first session that they meet, it is the president who addresses them, okay? So the first thing he does is addresses the session of the parliament. Now he also sends message to the parliament. Now maybe, for example, there is a particular issue that has come up, and maybe the president, wants the parliament to meet, to come together, or to or to discuss about that issue, to take a call about that issue. So the president can send a message to the parliament to gather together or to discuss on certain matters, okay? Now third one, the president also has a power to summon and prorogue the houses, okay? Summon is gathering together, okay? Prorogue is when the session is over. So in gathering the people, gathering the entire parliament together to take their session, and when the session is over, to kind of say, how when the period ends in class, how your teacher says, okay, the class is over, school is over. Same way, we need the president to say that, okay, the session for this, maybe a winter session or a monsoon session is over, okay? Now also, when it comes to dissolving the Lok Sabha after the tenure of the 5 years, or if the vote of no confidence is passed, then it is the president who declares, okay, I officially dissolve the Lok Sabha. Okay, so this is to be done by the president of India. Also, the nominated members, we all know that in the Rajya Sabha we have 12 members, in the Lok Sabha we have 2 members, okay, the Anglo-Indians. So these members are nominated, okay, by the president of India. Now, very important, no bill will become a law in India. You know what's a bill? A bill is when the law is being discussed in the parliament. So no bill will become a law in India unless the president signs it. Okay, so the president's signature is very, very important. Now, also passing or promulgating of ordinances. Now, if the house is not in session, okay, and maybe there is a law being a law that needs to be passed, then in that case the president has a right to pass an ordinance. Now this ordinance, okay, has to be ratified, okay, it has to be agreed by the house once the house comes into session. Otherwise, within 6 weeks that the house comes into session, if they do not want to pass the law, then in that case, the ordinance will cease to exist. Okay, fine. For example, I'm giving you an example of the Nirbhaya case. This is when an ordinance was passed. Okay, now we all know about the Nirbhaya rape case, a very sad incident that happened in India. Now, unfortunately, one of the accused were, was below the age of 14. Now, our Indian Penal Code, okay, usually said that anyone who is below the age of 14 would be tried as a child, and above the age of 14, you'll be tried as an adult if it's a heinous crime, okay, a very bad crime. But this crime was a very heinous crime, a very unbelievable crime, which was done by someone who was below the age of 14. And that time the parliament was not in session. So then finally, you have the president who passed a rule saying that now henceforth, anyone above the age of 12, okay, not below the, not above the age of 14, above the age of 12, if the person has done a very heinous crime, that person will be tried as an adult. Okay, that person will be tried as adult. Now, this was an ordinance that he passed. Afterwards, within a span of 2 months, the parliament gathered, and the parliament agreed with what the president said, that yes, in order to give all our children a kind of a kind of an understanding that you cannot get away with crimes that are bad. So in that case, anyone above the age of 12, if it's a heinous crime, you will be tried as an adult. They passed it, and that became a law. Okay. Now also assent to some state bills. Now, in certain areas, like say, for example, we all know regarding the Kashmir issue. Okay. Now in Kashmir, say, for example, if they're talking about, maybe building up the border roads, these are things, it usually comes, the borders, construction of border roads come under the state bill. But since this is a very, dicey situation, where are the borders, and likewise, so in that case, what those bills will be reserved, okay, state bills, it's of a state. Okay, this state bill is going to go, okay, to the president, and the president will decide whether, okay, should they go ahead with it or not. Okay, so the governor can give it to the president if there's something, which is a little dicey and he requires more aid and advice. Okay, and also in order to form a new state, even though it is put forward by the Rajya Sabha, but it is introduced by the President of India. Okay, fine. Now, remember one thing, okay, the president can pass, this is regarding the ordinance. Okay, now the ordinance, let's understand, the ordinance will come when both the houses, okay, are not in session, and usually it is approved, okay, within 6 weeks when the parliament resumes. Okay, and in case the parliament is not able to gather the maximum period of 6 months, okay, the ordinance will continue, but once they gather within 6 weeks, they have to pass it. Fine. Any doubts still here, children? Please let me know if there's any doubts. Okay. Okay, next we go on to our financial powers. Okay, very important. Now, financial powers mean dealing with money. Very important, money. Okay. Now, money bills can be introduced on the recommendation of the president. I know there's a speaker of the house in the Lok Sabha who kind of says, differentiates what is a money bill, but you can be introduced only if you take the permission of the president of India. Okay. The annual budget is presented by the finance minister on behalf of the president. So that means before the budget is even introduced in the house, the president of India should know what is the budget. Okay, so he has to have a a brief sitting earlier. Now the annual budget is the estimate. Now what are we talking about? The income expenditure of the union government. This is your annual budget. You all know that the budget is passed in March. You all know that, right? Okay, so everyone waits for that, because likewise you come to know what is the government's policies financially. Also, the annual financial statement is presented on behalf of the president by the finance minister of India. Okay, now say, I don't know, a few years back, I'm sure you all must have remembered or recalled, wherein there was this, tsunami that hit South India in Tamil Nadu, and even Sri Lanka was really wiped out. Okay, Sri Lanka faced a lot of damage infrastructurally. Now, in that case, the president can, the prime minister suggested, in order to mend our ties with Sri Lanka, it would be good if we, fund them, if we, send some financial aid to that country. So the president agreed. Now, remember, the president can agree to give the money, or the withdrawals can happen from the contingency fund of India. Okay. Now, this contingency fund, you cannot withdraw anything until the president authorizes it. Okay, so remember that all withdrawals, maybe there's something, maybe we want to upgrade our military, okay, and we are already done with the, with the budget. But now we feel that we want to upgrade it and it's going to cost additional money. So where does that additional money come from? From the contingency fund of India, okay? But remember, the president is answerable for what he or she signs for, okay? Now, also, after every 5 years, the president appoints the finance commission. Now, this finance commission is supposed to make recommendations of how we can improve the finances of our country better. So you'll have one chairperson and 4 other members who form a part of the finance commission. Okay, so this is our financial. So we're done with 2. One is the executive powers, one is the financial powers. Okay, third, very, very important. This is regarding your judicial powers. The moment you hear judicial, you should think about courts. Okay, so remember one thing. The president is not answerable before any court of law. That means, you cannot call the president to court maybe for a trial. So before that happens, the president has to be impeached. You remove the president from the post and then you call him. Okay, but as the president of India, like, to maintain that dignity, you can't call, the president of India to the court. Maybe, for a witness or likewise, you can't do that. Okay, fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Secondly is no criminal case can be initiated against him while he's in office. So in case you have to, maybe the president has committed a murder, example, okay? The president has committed a murder. So you mean he will go scot-free? Any feedback? You think he'll go scot-free? I know you're like, okay, would you like, okay, so anyway, I'll just, give you an idea here. If the president has committed a murder, the first thing is he will be impeached. You remove the person from the post and then you begin the murder proceedings. Okay, fine. So there will be no criminal cases while he's a president. Once he's removed from the post, you can start your criminal cases against him. Now, the president has the power to reduce or increase the punishments. Now, if there's a case regarding your court martial, okay, wherein, a person of the army is being tried for some or the other, maybe treason or some or the other reason. In that case, maybe the president has a right to reduce or increase the punishment. Okay, so usually after the court passes an order, okay, the judgment, the highest appeal you have is you appeal to the president. So you can appeal to the president in certain cases. Okay, now in all cases listed in the union territories or the concurrent list, okay, the president has a say. Maybe, for example, there is the fight of the waters, okay, the river Kaveri between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. So even though it has gone to the to the Supreme Court, but still, in case they are not happy with the judgment, they can further appeal to the president of India. Okay, and when cases where there's a death sentence, it is said that in the case of the assassination of our Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. Now, the mastermind, that lady, who was said to have planned this entire thing, she was apparently, arrested, okay, from Sri Lanka. She was brought to India, tried in the Indian Penal Code, and finally she was found guilty. Now, the court passed, an order of hang her to death. Okay, that is your death sentence. But afterwards, within 1-2 months, was a waiting period before she would be hanged to death. They realized that she was pregnant, she was expecting. So it was very kind back then of Sonia Gandhi, okay, who was was a then grieving widow of Rajiv Gandhi. She appealed to the president of India, said, it's unfair to kill the child in the womb. I know this lady has killed my husband, but it's unfair. So then she appealed to the president, and the president, what he did was, he he reduced the death sentence. From the death sentence, he made it a life imprisonment. Okay, so that lady could give birth to the child. Okay, and likewise, she could live her entire life, but she was imprisoned in jail itself. Okay, fine. So this is the judicial powers of the president of India. Fine. Now we're done with three powers. Now we are come to a very important thing, discretionary. You know the word discretion? In English, it means you think, you think whether you really want to do it or not. So discretion is using your own judgment here. Now, when would the President of India use a judgment? Firstly, when there is, a kind of hung parliament, in case there are two parties that have got the exact vote, say the exact almost majority, exact majority, and now there's no clear clear cut line of who gets a majority. So it is, president will sit with one party, hear them out, what is their say, who will become the prime minister, what is their manifesto saying, hear them out. Then he'll sit with the second party, hear them out, who is going to be their prime minister, what is their manifesto, what they will do in the once they get into power. And when there's a hung parliament, in that case, he chooses, either he chooses this party or this party. That is his discretion. Okay. Now, also appointing the prime minister, okay, in case of sudden death. If there's a sudden death, then you have the president will call the ruling party and say, okay, among you, who do you all want to send forward as the next candidate? Okay. So he usually convinces the ruling party to immediately appoint the next prime minister of India. Also, when the ruling party has lost a majority, okay, it is the president who decides to dissolve the house. Okay, either they will say, okay, the entire let's dissolve the house and the entire country will go into election, or in case the president will say, okay, we just voted maybe few months ago again to go into elections, so anyone else in the house who can prove the majority, so maybe some other parties will come together and prove the majority, they'll form a coalition. Then in that case, you have the president who say, okay, fine, we can continue with this party. So then the house will not go into elections. Okay, the entire country will not go into elections. And the president can dismiss in case the council of ministers loses a confidence but refuses to resign. You can imagine if the vote of no confidence is passed and the prime minister council say, no, we are not going to resign. So in that case, the president steps in and says, you have to resign. I'm sorry. Okay, the people are not in favor of you. You will have to resign. So the president here is an enforcer. This is known as your discretionary powers. Okay, fine. So we are done with our judicial powers. We are done with the executive powers. We are done with our legislative powers. We're done with our financial powers, and we're done with our discretionary powers. Okay, so we're done with 5 powers. Okay. Now, this is very, very, very important. Okay, the emergency powers. Okay, remember the word emergency means it is used in the rarest of rare when really needed. Now, there are 3 types of emergency that the President of India can declare. The first one is your national emergency or your general emergency. Okay, when it is discussed, we'll just talk about it in a little later. Your second is your financial emergency. And third is your emergency in the state or when there's a breakdown in the constitutional machinery. Okay, let's go one by one. Let's analyze one by one. What are the types of emergency and what happens? Okay. So far, any doubts, children?
No, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Okay, the first very important. When you hear the word general emergency or national emergency, it means there is a threat to India's security. Maybe there's a country that has waged a war against us. Okay, or maybe there is a kind of a civil war or an armed rebellion happening within the state, or not one state but few states. Then in that case, the president will declare a state of national emergency, and the national emergency should be approved within by the parliament, by both the houses, within 1 month. So even if the parliament is on a break, they will call them, he will summon the parliament. He said, come together, please. They will come together and immediately they will pass, okay, whether the emergency should continue or not. Fine. Now this emergency cannot continue for more than 1 month unless the parliament approves. Okay, fine. And in case, the emergency is happening when the 5 years are up of the government, okay, of the Lok Sabha, and they have to now, they have to leave, the new elections have to be held, the elections will be postponed, and the tenure of the Lok Sabha will be increased by 1 more year. Okay, fine. So that is your national emergency. Remember, national means there's a threat. Now, I know sometimes we have been, our politicians have flaunted with the rules. Now, this has happened during the tenure of Indira Gandhi. Okay, she declared national emergency, but this was one emergency that was really not required. It was kind of like a political gimmick. She caused a national emergency, saying that there is a little unrest, but actually it was nothing like that. It is just that
Yes, ma'am.
she had a fear that she will lose the upcoming general elections. And so with the national emergency, all the opposition were put into prison. And then just when elections are about to held 1 month before, she released all of them and the emergency was uplifted. But to her bad luck, the opposition won. Okay, when the entire country went into voting, people were not happy that she declared an emergency for no reason, and they did not vote her back. Okay, so that tenure she didn't win. So what happens when the national emergency is declared? Firstly, your fundamental rights are suspended. Okay, would anyone here like to state one fundamental right? Do you all know what one fundamental right that we have as Indians? Sanvi, Kuvar, Ashta, one fundamental right. Come on. What do we have? The right. What am I doing now? I am
Speaking.
speaking. So that's freedom of speech. So that
Yes, ma'am.
very good, Ashta. So the freedom of speech, okay, that is going away. You cannot write in the press also whatever you want. You have to take everything, a yes from the government and not from the government, and then go ahead and print it. Fine. So
Yes, ma'am.
so you have the fundamental rights are suspended partially or totally. Okay, you cannot go to court saying that no, the government is not allowing me to speak. I have a problem with that country that is invading us, and I want to speak against that country. You cannot do that. Okay, what if it causes a lot of tension and chaos between both the countries which are trying to sort out the matter? So our fundamental rights are at that time suspended. Secondly, the states have to work according to the instructions given by the central government or by the President of India. The central government during that time, they can alter the distribution of the states. Say for example, okay, let's assume this is never going to happen again, but in case, say for example, the area of Jammu and Kashmir is getting invaded again. Okay, now every year we have some particular money allotted to each state. Now maybe for that year, the state of the area of Kashmir as well as Jammu, they were given maybe 100 crore. Now there's a warlike situation, you need more money in that state, so they say immediately, they will change and say, okay, now we will give you maybe 400 crores. Okay, get your work done, get the military is there, no doubt, but this is allocating more money here in order to ensure the safety of the country. Okay, now the term of the Lok Sabha also will be increased by 1 year. I told you that earlier. Okay, now initially we had the first time we launched an emergency in India was when China attacked us. Okay, the whole country gathered together, and there were so many of them who joined the military. It also happened, I'm very sure if you all were a part of the Kargil war, which it was a recent war that we witnessed. So even during that time, the entire country comes together during national emergency, and also the president is taking a much more a much more responsibility in those areas. And the second time we had it was during the time wherein Pakistan invaded India. Okay, these are the only times when we had a national emergency, and the third one we know regarding Indira Gandhi. Yeah, and then the fourth one was unfortunately our Kargil war. Yeah. Now let's go on the emergency. Now the second type of emergency. Okay, emergency when there's a breakdown of the constitutional emergency, or also it is known as a state emergency. Now what happens in case, say for example, in the state, okay, now let's catch a state, say the state of Maharashtra. Now in the state of Maharashtra, if there is a civil war happening, okay, maybe there's a riot like situation, riots, okay, a particular section of people are fighting against the others and there's a lot of killing happening, the government cannot take care of that stance. Then in that case, you have the next emergency that is issued. Okay, now, so in this case, the president's rule is imposed in that particular state. So, the president will say, henceforth, now I'm taking over the rule of Maharashtra. Now, the duration of such an emergency is for 2 months. Now, if you're maybe after 2 months, the president, now remember, the president is the head of the, defense, right? So once he takes over, the military enters it. So if the military is coming in and after 2 months also, things are not sorted out, then in that case, the parliament will increase it, okay, to 1 month at a time. But let's understand, not more than a year. Usually, it's not more than a year. Okay, then afterwards, the entire state goes into fresh elections, and the new chief minister and the council of ministers are elected. Okay, now what happens if the state is taken over by the president? Firstly, the entire administration, your ruling of the state is taken over by the president, and the governor is there actually. It's not like the president will enter Maharashtra. He will do everything by conversing or being in touch with the governor. Okay, now the president may also dissolve the Vidhan Sabha of that state, and he may dismiss, okay, the chief minister and the council of ministers. He may say, we don't need you right now. We will follow as per our own way. The next thing, also things that were on the state list now will be passed by the parliament. Maybe it is something to do with the trade. Okay, the trade of the state goes in under the state list. So now the parliament will decide in this president's rule, should the state trade with some other state, or do we keep the trade on hold? What is the repercussion? So all this is going to be discussed in the Parliament of India. Okay, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha will decide about that. And also, if there's more money required to that state, okay, maybe there's a lot of infrastructure that is burnt up, and the president feels, the governor feels, we need to get more money to maybe build more hospitals because there's a lot of casualties. So in that case, the money will be allocated from the consolidated fund of India by the president. And okay, now president's India, now one of the thing where we've seen is president's rule was imposed in India, and for the first time it was imposed in Punjab. This was a time when the beginning of the Khalistan movement, or indirectly when they wanted to break away from India. They didn't want to be a part of Pakistan. Let's understand. They wanted to form their own country. Okay, so this is the first time that they imposed the emergency, okay, in the state. So we are done with two emergencies. One is your national emergency or general emergency. Your second is your state emergency or your emergency during the breakdown of the constitutional machinery. And your third emergency is financial emergency, wherein the president can declare your financial emergency if he feels that the money, the finances in the country is not stable or credible enough, or it's in danger. So in that case, he declares a financial emergency. Now, this emergency is valid for 2 months. Okay, and in case after 2 months also the finances are not in good shape, it has to be approved or ratified by the parliament in order to continue. Okay, now what happens during that time? The president appoints a finance commission, okay, to ensure how can we improve our money. Maybe the country is going to debt, so how do we improve our money, our assets that we have. Second is the salaries of all the government, okay, officers, right from even the president of India. Everyone's salary will decrease a particular percentage, maybe 10% less or 15% less, okay, until like we are able to have enough of money, or have a particular standard in the GDP that we wanted. Also, all money bills have to be passed in the Lok Sabha, and they have to be approved by the president during this time. Okay, the president will issue instruction for the state. Say, for example, initially in the budget, if they said, okay, the state of Madhya Pradesh, you will get 400 crores for for your tenure, okay, for 5 years of or for 1 year, how you are going to improve the infrastructure. Now suddenly, then the president will say, I'm sorry, we cannot give you 400 crores, we are just going to give you 200 crores, because our financial situation is not that great. Okay, and finally, remember, in India so far, thank God, we have never got any financial emergency. Okay, so luckily our finances are really being taken care of. Okay, so we are done with the types of emergency. Now before we move on to the vice president, okay, I will just take a little short break, but a very, very important announcement. Just wait a minute.
Okay, so good afternoon, students. My name is Anthony Dias, and you'll have seen my videos on Roughbox. So thank you for, yes, Asta, you need to say something?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. So Sanvi, Kuvar, Asta, thank you for choosing Roughbox, our learning companion. And this is a little information that I need to give you on behalf of Dr. Mitesh Gala and the Roughbox team that if you are planning to subscribe for the other subject courses, the crash courses that we have, you all can take down this code that is SST. Okay. S for Srinagar, again S for Shimla, and T for Tamil Nadu, and the number 20, then you can get a 20% off on all the crash courses, all subject crash courses, and also you will get a discount on a special course that is there, that is PCMB. Okay, that is Physics, Chemistry, Biology, and Maths. So you get a 20% on that, and also your social studies crash course will become free of cost. So once again, I'm repeating the code is SST 20. Okay, so if you want to apply for the crash courses of all the subjects, if you have not done right up till now, so you can do that and you will get a 20% discount straight away on the hard-earned money of your parents. And also the crash course for social studies will become free of cost for you, right? Any doubts with regards to this? So you can pass on this code to your friends, right? And you can get in touch with the numbers that are given on the PPT over here for inquiry. That is 845282365, 915958335. Yeah, so you can get in touch with any of our team members. So we have Sir Samir on the team over there. We have Sir Pratham, who will help you all to get, the maximum discount that you all can get for the following courses, right? Once over, handing over to Ms. Precila, who will continue with the topic on Union Executive with the subtopic Vice President.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So isn't Roughbox such a great deal? Okay. So now we are done with our president. We are done with the functions of the president. Okay. Once you finalize that, now we come to the very interesting topic. Okay. Next one, a short topic. The Vice President of India. Okay. Now, who is the Vice President? What are the qualifications required? Now, the first one is the Vice President should be the citizen of India, should have completed 35 years of age minimum, should be having the qualifications required in order to stand for as an elected member of the Rajya Sabha, and should not have any office of profit, should be of sound mind, should not be an insolvent, okay, or someone who is going to death. So all these, okay, stand firm as the qualifications required in order to be the Vice President of India. Okay, so we all know Venkaiah Naidu, right? Now, how is the president elected, Vice President of India elected? Same way, through the electoral college. Okay, so remember one thing, the Vice President also is elected through the electoral college, that is the members of the the members of the parliament, as well as the members of the Vidhan Sabha of each state. Fine. Now remember one thing, what is the term of office? Same, 5 years, like that of the president. Okay, now the president is the one who administers the oath of office to the Vice President of India. Okay, fine. Remember one, it's usually, the tenure of the both of them don't get elected at the same time. If you look at a tenure, it's usually within 2.5 years that the president is elected, next the vice president gets elected. So likewise, each other, they help each other take the vote, the oath, okay, of office. Fine. Now, what are the powers? This is very, very, very simple. Okay, we are come to the powers of the vice president. Now, firstly, the vice president takes over as a president. Now, he's an ex officio chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. You're all aware of that, right? By default, like how is the Speaker of the House? Same way, the vice president is the ex officio chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. Okay. Now, if the president dies, if the president resigns, if the president is impeached, or the president is unable to discharge his duty, maybe because of illness or maybe because of absence of duty, maybe there's an emergency come in the family and the president cannot continue, then in that case he takes over the office of the President of India. Okay, remember that. Okay, but the vice president takes over the office as President of India. Then the deputy chairperson in the Rajya Sabha, he takes over the post as the chairperson, ex officio chairperson. Okay, did we understand that? So it is like each one filling the other seat. And the second thing we come up is to the powers of the vice president is very important. He's an ex officio chairperson, okay, or indirectly the indirectly nominated person, chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. Now, what does he do in the Rajya Sabha? Same thing that the speaker does in the Lok Sabha. He regulates the proceedings of the debates. He decides the order of the speech. He decides what can be admitted, the resolutions. He may adjourn or suspend the business of the House, and he gives direction to the chairperson of various committees. Okay, fine. So far, any question, children? Those who have joined us, any questions so far? Okay, so, with this, we come to an end or a chapter. I'll stop the screen share. Okay, we've come to an end of the chapter. If you any one of you here have any doubts?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, tell me, Ashta.
Can you please explain the term of office of Vice President?
The term of office of the Vice President is 5 years.
Okay.
5 years. Okay.
Same.
Same. Both of them are appointed for 5 years. Okay. Actually, not only both of them, including our ruling party.
Yes, ma'am.
So 5 is a very important number in our constitution. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Any other questions? Sanvi, Kuwar, any questions? Okay. Now, as for your syllabus, the diplomatic powers are not there. Okay. So, you don't have to focus, just read through it. Okay. Remember, the diplomatic powers is, when the ambassadors of other country come to our country. Okay. It is the president who will appoint. Okay. Who are the ambassadors of our country who go to some other country? Or if, maybe the head of the state, maybe say the Queen is coming, example, the Queen is coming to India. Okay, it will be the Prime Minister will go to visit, but even the President of India has to go to visit. Yeah, so you welcome the person into your country. Okay, someone who is an important dignitary. So that is your diplomatic powers, which is not very much there in your syllabus currently. Fine. So I did not, spell it out. Okay. So with this, can we end? And I really hope children go through your textbooks, read well, read the notes, and I'm sure if you'll have any doubts, feel free to contact me in the next class that we have. Yeah, it was really nice of you, Ashta, Sanvi, and Kuwar to join in. Very nice of you. And all those on YouTube who've joined us, maybe you will see the recording later. Okay, I hope we are able to sort out the chapter well, and it's an easy chapter to score. Just give your best and study. Yeah, all the best.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, Asha.
Can we get that PDF on Dropbox which you have taught today?
The PDF of the PowerPoint on Dropbox?
Yes.
Yes, surely. We'll send it. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Fine. So with this, I'm ending the meeting. Okay. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ashta. Thank you, Sanvi. And thank you, Kuwar, for joining us. I'm ending the meeting. All the best to you. Yeah.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye.